Welcome along to the EXFL Tier 2 Season 9 Qatar Grand Prix. We are here for round 21 out of 22, the penultimate race of the season, where both titles are still yet to be decided, but both are on the line for tonight and can be wrapped up if the certain drivers who are in the fight can get the job done. We've got 14 drivers here at night in Qatar, and I think it's very appropriate to start off with Warren, who got his first ever podium in EXFL Tier 2 last time out in Las Vegas. His 50th race tonight, his 51st, and hopefully he'll keep going strong. Obviously, tonight compared to last night, warnings and penalties are going to be a bigger factor in the race to decide things. Nearly every corner there's a potential to get one. But yeah, he's in the pit lane at the moment. Frosty Life exits the pit lane then in the Red Bull. Approaching nearly 110 races in the tier. He's currently 6th in the standings, kind of on his own, as there's a big fight, 7th, sorry, as there's a big fight for 4th, 5th and 6th in the standings. I'll get into that later on. Hughes Morgan then, out on track, one of the two Alpine drivers. Alpine can win the Constructors' Championship tonight if they outscore RB by 17 points. Currently, they lead by 28. So there's still always the possibility it can go down to the wire between those two teams. Obviously, Aston Martin are still in the fight. They're 66 points behind, but obviously they would need to outscore Alpine by 20 points to stay within the fight. If they do not, it will be just down to these two teams. And Morgan, he has set in stone P3 in the championship in the drivers. He won't be any higher or lower than that. Josh Hewitt, one of the two RBs on the medium tyres. Remember last season he was pretty good around here as the Williams gets out of his way, slows down. But the thing that let him down, not only were penalties, but fuel. Fuel was a big thing around here last season. This game, not so much. Drifting, also one of the two Alpines, looking to help his teammate win the Constructors' Championship. Just avoiding the Mercedes there. But him himself, for the drivers, is in quite the fight. He is level on points with 4th and 5th in the championship with Eggy and Small Nick, only 8 points behind them now, so a three-way fight for 4th. Christian has been looking pretty good recently, getting consistent points, scoring well, and let's hope he can carry it on. Bluey in the Ferrari, also looking to get another points finish if some crazy stuff happens. We got Lee in the Mercedes. He showed good pace in Vegas in terms of race pace, consistency-wise. And let's see if we can get some more points on the board. Nathan, one of the two Astons, still in the pit lane, hoping to also get some more points. I'm sure he's still pretty happy of what happened in Mexico about 3 weeks ago when he led the race. We'll go down to the bottom of the table. Chubster in the Sauber has been getting some pretty decent points as well, making his way up the standings and into the top 10 now. Small Nick then, he's on the back of 3 wins in a row. The record for most wins in a row in this tier is 4. If he wins tonight, he equals that record. And even though he's not in the championship fight, I'm sure if he kept the momentum all season, considering he started racing around 7-ish rounds in, he may have been within a shout. But he goes again tonight, just focusing on himself and focusing to maybe be P4 in the standings after tonight. 8 points behind Eggy and Drifting. And he said he's getting that P4. An insane comeback from him, which, take nothing away, it is really good from him, considering how far he was behind them. So he's going to be focusing on that. As we see Eggy on the intermediate tyres in front of Josh Hewitt, I believe, who's just on his in-lap. As Hughes Morgan sets the outright pace, then 2 tenths ahead. But I've left out the top 2 in the championship. Oren, who's coming around the final corner on Inters, invalidated, not really going to bother him too much. And Seb, who's in the pit lane at the moment. Sebastian Ferrugia has the chance to become world champion tonight if Oren doesn't outscore him by 19 points, which means, to put it as simple as possible, Seb just needs P6 and he is world champion. Simple as that. It's kind of a reverse swap. Actually, I believe Oren's going for a lap now, so it didn't even matter. He invalidated on his outlap. But yeah, Oren, if he doesn't even win, or doesn't finish second with fastest lap, if he finishes second or lower, Seb's champion anyway. Once again, fastest laps are quite deciding in these kind of things. But yeah, if Oren's second, third, fourth, whatever, Seb is champion. But Seb, to focus on himself, 6 or higher, and he will do it. That's enough. No matter what Oren does, he will become the 9th Tier 2 champion of the world and the first on F1 24. He's been waiting quite a few years now for a season to call his own, and this season he has done just that, above and beyond. Records broken, records equalled, taking it higher than anyone could have thought, as Oren on the inters will get in a lap. We've got some yellows in the middle sector, people just slowing down, but at the moment it's Morgan. Oh yeah, changed pit lane of course, so you don't enter it as the Mercedes flies by him. You don't obviously enter it heading into the last corner, you enter it like a bit like France on the main straight now. Let's quickly look at tyres. So Frosty and Warren both on the mediums. Josh now putting the soft compound tyres on. Yeah, it looks like everyone behind Oren were on inters. Still waiting for Nathan, Seb and Small Nick to set a lap time. Looks like Nick didn't get his lap on the board. This Eggy will probably go into the pit lane now. Yep. And Frosty's going again, but he's invalidated. As Warren into turn 4. We'll see at the end of this first sector if he's up by anything, if he's going for another run, which he is by just over a tenth and a half. Round turn 7, keeping it valid. Warren said if he gets more than 10 seconds of time penalties today, he's not going to be happy. And yeah, there is, I'd say about 70% of the corners a chance for a warning. Exit of 1, exit of 2, 4, probably the only corner you can cut. Everywhere else is exceeding, going wide. Turn 5, 6, not really. 7, yes. 8, 9, 10 potentially, as there's an invalidation from Warren on the penultimate corner. One of the biggest, if not the biggest chance for a warning as you enter the pit lane, as the rest gear up for their second run. Morgan, he's done this a few times. He sets a lap quite early at the start of qualifying, and then when it comes to the end, he'll do another run. Saves a set. But Chubster up in P2 at the moment, pretty solid. As Josh on the softs, we'll see what he can do. See if he can find 0.6 of a second. Oren's still out there on the inters, just getting some running in. Drifting off there, also on the inters. So here we are, championship leader, Sebastian Ferrugia. Has got a Red Bull in front of him. Of Frosty, I think he's trying to do a lap. But anyway, a lap around Qatar. Seb will pick up a little bit of a slipstream from the sister Red Bull. Yep, blasting battery down into turn 1. He's actually not using too much, as we can see on his steering wheel. Into turn 1 then. Doesn't quite hit the apex exactly, but keeps it going forward. Into turn 2 now. Pretty much the opposite of what you want to do. 2-1. Turn 3 is flat. Don't even have to think about it. Keeping left onto that curb. Through turn 4. 1 input, but he's invalidated, unfortunately. So that's going to let him down a bit. What about Josh Hewitt then? Let's see if he can do turn 4 better. 1 input. Takes it slightly less aggressive, but keeps it valid. End of sector 1 now. He's up by nearly 2.5 tenths. Heavy braking into the hairpin. That's where all the brake bias is going to be, considering it's quite low, this track. Probably the lowest of the entire calendar. Still keeping it valid on exit. Flapped for the right-hander. Bit of a heavy braking zone here. Not touching the curb. Getting on the power. And of course, you want to save some battery for the end. But it's not like last game where you've got a long straight on the start-finish. It comes quite quickly once you exit the corner through the pretty much opposite Turkey-esque right-handers. Bit similar to Texas right at the end. Keeping it valid just on the penultimate corner. Bit of traffic in front of him. Round the final corner for Josh Hewitt. Currently 6 tenths down nearly. Crosses the line now. Can he go onto provisional pole? He does by just over 2 tenths. So Josh Hewitt with 8 minutes remaining. Currently first, but we got a lot more lap times to come. Chubstead across the line. Does improve, but stays where he is. Frosty Life into turn 1 on the medium. Still where he is. Christian begins a lap. Warren gets out the way in 6th. Bluey still currently 7th. Oren backwards. For some reason. He might even get disqualified if he carries on like that. Which I'm pretty surprised the game hasn't done already. So if Oren wants to start this race from last, he's doing just that. I'm really surprised the game hasn't disqualified him yet. Eggy currently on the softs, drifting, and Nathan exiting the pit lane. Seb invalid again, I believe. And Smallnick heading around the final corner with a valid lap time. I don't know how on earth Oren's not. Maybe that's just in the race. There's a Ferrari doing it as well. No. That's crossing the line. Smallnick behind Josh Hewitt. So Qatar proving to be a little gem for the RB driver, who's not had the season he wanted, but come around to Qatar and he's delivering. What about his teammate though? Seb will probably pop into the pit lane then. So RB sandwich, but it's not the RBs you'd expect in first and last. RB who are 28 points behind Alpine. And if they want to win this Constructors' Championship, they need both drivers up there. As Eggy goes 5th. And I'm sure if Josh had a semi-decent season, RB would be winning it. But because he's not really had the greatest season, currently, 16th in the standings? 16 points or something to his name. No podium all season. Maybe this is his last chance. Of course, Abu Dhabi is still around the corner where Josh and Seb got a 1-2. So that is their last chance. But to still keep within 44 points of P1 of Alpine, they got to do well tonight. And yes, somehow Oren didn't get disqualified. I thought if you reverse that much in quali, you... technically he was going forward on track, but in reverse, so I guess that's why the game didn't disqualify him. If he went actually backwards on track, he would get disqualified, so I guess that's why he was fine. As drifting is invalidated, as he's just begun a lap. Nathan, valid, as he heads through turn 2. And Seb, it's exactly the same as Silverstone earlier this season. 14th and last at the moment, and will have one final run to see if he can take pole position. Seb, who has 9 poles this season. Oren, who has 8 poles this season. They've been on pole ever since Austria for the last 11 or so races. It's been these two as Warren goes onto the front row. For Haas, does a little wiggle to show he's happy with that lap. Now wiggles a lot. He's very happy with that lap. Warren on the front row. Who hasn't started higher than 3rd. He got in China earlier this season. But now is currently 2nd. Smallnick, 36 thousandths down in the middle sector. If he's going to find any more time in the last, it's going to be battery related or nailing a corner entry, exit. A little bit of a wiggle out to the penultimate. Can Smallnick get back on the front row? Can he potentially take provisional pole away from Josh Hewitt? Just keeps it valid within the lines. DRS open across the line for Nick. And he does go back onto the front row and misses out by 25 thousandths on provisional pole to knock Warren back down to 3rd, who's trying to get back in the pit lane. And speaking of back in the pit lane, it's going to be quite close for Smallnick. But I believe he should just about get one more run in. Depends, really. But yeah, Seb and Oren, who have had 17 poles out of the 20 races we've had so far. The other 3 going to Alpine, 2 for Morgan, 1 for drifting. We yet to see Josh on pole, Nick on pole, Warren on pole this season. But 2 rounds to go, and anything can happen. Drifting is out there at the moment. Currently about to finish the middle sector. 58-1. Definitely going for a run this time. Seb, who is joint 2nd on the all-time list of poles with 12, would love a 13th. The record is 15. He won't be getting that, unfortunately, by the end of the season. But I'm sure there are other things that are mainly on his mind. But yeah, at the moment, through it all, Josh Hewitt by 25 thousandths is just hanging on as drifting. Just over 2.5 tenths off. It's very close to the top 6. And very close to the top 2. Nick into the pits with 3 minutes to go. He should be able to get out and go for one more time. Speaking of which, Christian, 2.5 tenths up in the first sector. Half a second up in the middle sector. So, would probably put him 7th if he keeps this momentum going. What about Oren? Invalidated. I believe he was beginning a lap. So, yeah, this is, unless Oren's fueled to go again, this is looking quite disastrous for the Aston Martin, who may, by his own choice, be starting last. To give him, as the Christian does go 7th, to give him no stress into the race. When you're at the bottom, there's only one way left to go, and he will hopefully be going up the order. His teammate as well, Nathan, yet to do a lap. Nathan about to do a lap, but the 2 RBs exiting the pit lane then, ready for their final run. Bluey currently in 11th. Christian, he may be done for quali unless he's fueled to go for one more run. Smolnik still in the pit lane. 1 minute 57 to go. You can see the Williams mechanic giving him the thumbs up to exit the pit lane. He will be the last car out of the garage and potentially the last car to set a lap time if he can make it. So drifting, I think, gearing up for his final run. Morgan currently in the middle sector. Warren on an outlap. Nick enters turn 1. We don't know how much time is left in the session, but it's going to be close for the Williams driver. 1 minute 27. So you'd roughly be starting a lap now. So that's his advantage. Around 20 seconds in hand. So he should be fine. Anyway, round the final corner, there is 3 cars beginning a lap. And it starts with Lee in front of Bluey, who gets out the way of the Alpine of Morgan. So Morgan has started his lap with a little bit of slipstream, but also a bit of a eyesore for the driver in front of him as well. Lee beginning his lap, as well as Christian in front of Eggy, as Christian gets out the way of the Mercedes. So that's Christian done for qualifying. And then the 2 RBs in front of them, the Aston and the Sauber of Chubster. Here we go then, the final runs begin. Frosty round the final corner to begin his lap, and then it will be Small Nick. And in between them we got an Aston and a Alpine drifting round the final corner for drifting then. Currently 2.5 tenths down on pole, crosses the line for the Alpine driver. He goes in front of his teammate, P4 at best for the Alpine driver. As behind him, I believe that's Oren beginning his run. So drifting will get out the way of the Aston Martin. And across the line for Nick with 13 seconds to go. Nick will be the last one over the line. Looking in the middle sector, we got the Alpine of Morgan, and in front of him, the Mercedes of Lee invalidated. Morgan, half a second up, has that slipstream from Lee, just gifted Morgan potentially a 3rd pole of the season. He's going to cross the line, and provisional pole is back in Morgan's court by 4 tenths of a second. Josh is finding time, just about keeping it valid, and that slipstream from Lee, even if it held him up in the penultimate corner, did help him. Who can challenge then? Where's Seb? Round the final corner as we see the Mercedes of Eggy finish, and then Chubster go onto the front row. But wait for the championship leader to cross the line and obliterate Morgan's lap time. Josh goes P4, and we see where Warren can put his hat. It's P6 at the moment, as spinning over the line. I believe that may have been Nathan. It is. So what about Oren then? Round the final corner, and Frosty Life in P10, he's invalidated. So it's just Oren to take away the pole from Seb by 6 tenths of a second. What a lap from the championship leader. Can Oren join him on the front row and make it the top 2? The top 2! It is Seb and Oren, like it has been for so much of the season, on the front row, and Morgan 3rd. The top 3 in the championship, 1, 2 and 3. A Small Nick right at the end takes away the front row from Oren. To get in front, but no one can get anywhere near Seb. So it is Seb who takes a 10th pole of the season. On the night, he can become world champion. Small Nick alongside him on the front row. Oren and Seb supporting the same flag. Morgan 4th, Chubster, very impressive 5th. Josh Hewitt ended up 6th in the end. Warren 7th, drifting 8th. Christian in the top 10 in 9th. Good on him. Eggy to round out the top 10. Then Frosty, Lee, Bluey, and then Nathan in P14. But we know when it comes to the race pace is a lot closer than quali. Well, that's been the trend this season. So they'll load onto the grid, maybe potentially make some setup tweaks, adjust their fuel loads, confirm their strategy. And once we hear those ticking noises, we are all ready and set for the penultimate race of the season, the Qatar Grand Prix. Can Seb convert pole into a win, into a world championship? What can Oren do starting from third? He's going to get a bit of a slipstream from his championship rival, and Oren needs to win tonight and hope Seb finishes 7th or lower to keep alive the championship to the finale. Both titles on the line then. Seb on the left, Nick on the right. The 5 lights come on in Qatar. It's lights out and away we go with Seb leading away from small Nick, and Morgan's already passed Oren as there's 3 and 4 wide further the back. But Seb leads into turn 1 from Nick, from Morgan. Oren's had a bad start down to 5th as Josh Hewitt is in front of him. Warren fighting away with drifting for 7th as they single file the top 6, and all going off there is Chubster down the order, unfortunately into the gravel, and Nathan makes his way past him. Oren stays in front of Warren as they're wheel to wheel, and Oren stays in 5th then, the top 4. All on the mediums as well. As drifting, trying to hold off Christian, 4P7. Liam P9, Frosty 10th, Eggy down to 11th, Bluey in 12th with a 10-second penalty for corner cutting and gaining a place. So, biggest gainer at the moment is Lee from 12th up to 9th. And everyone on the medium compound tyres, no one deciding to start on the softs, as tyre wear is going to be a huge factor in this race, as well as penalties. And the first one to get one is Bluey with a 10 set. But it is Sebastian Ferrugia leading from Small Nick, from Morgan, from Josh, and Oren just not having the start he wanted. 3rd down to 5th. But at least he is up front with these guys as Josh goes off. And we know how these two have been throughout the course of the season. Oren trying to go around the outside of Josh, but he keeps him at bay. And hopefully they will fight cleanly. Warren has gained a place up to 6th, drifting in 7th as Chubster gets past Bluey. 4P12. He went off at turn 2. For some reason, may have been hit. But that is the first lap done, all using their overtake. You can see all of them in one picture there. Seb, Nick, Morgan, Josh, Oren still right behind the RB driver. The top 11 all within DRS of one another. Chubster unfortunately has dropped off a bit. He might be able to gain back if he can push hard enough. And yeah, Nathan struggling down in 14th at the moment. But it's going to be interesting. Race pace is going to be the name of the game now. Can Morgan stick with the top 2? Can Josh hold off Oren? As Warren is right up close to the back of the Aston Martin. And he's got plenty of battery to use. And these guys don't usually second guess themselves and hesitate if they want to go for a send. But at the moment they're keeping it clean. As we see Frosty and Lee fighting for 9th and 10th. Lee holds on 2P9 ahead of the Red Bull. As Bluey gets the second penalty of the evening. So Seb, 81%. Small Nick, pretty much the same. Just reduces throughout the top 4. Oren with a bit more to play for. And right now, besides race pace, it's also warnings. They just got to hold on and not make any mistakes. Especially if it stays in a train like this. Looks like it's the top 7 then, breaking away from Christian, who's holding up a bit of his train of his own down to 12th. Of Chubster does join the fight. And Seb nearly a second clear of Nick. And looks like everyone's far enough away for any sort of move throughout the top 7. As we see Lee getting past Christian into P8. And now he's the leader of the rest, best of the rest. As Bluey falling further behind. Same with Nathan, who's got 100% battery. And no one's really depleted all their battery. The lowest, I believe, is drifting. Who's at the back of the train and will hopefully be allowed to save some battery. Medium, medium, medium. I think that was overtake for Seb. He's trying to get Nick out of a second. And he's pretty much nearly done that. And it is now a second. So Nick better start using some battery on the exit of this next corner. Otherwise he's going to come under pressure from Morgan, Josh and Oren. And here's 1.1. Nick keeping it in medium. It looks like if he's going to work together with these guys to swap and gain back on Seb, that's his plan. But yes, Seb will be over a second now as Nick is starting to struggle. You can see how close Morgan and Josh are to him. And Oren also closing in on these guys. Josh all over the back of Morgan. Morgan looking certainly set to take P2 away from Nick, who's lost so much time to the leader. It's 2 seconds now. Morgan will blast his battery, and Josh will be in the slipstream of the pair of them. Oren gaining as well. Looks like Nick could be done by 3 positions here. Oren's going for the double move on Josh Hewitt. Oren to the inside, tags Morgan, and will lose the place to Josh and Nick again. So Oren just a bit too deep on the brakes. Well, now we'll go around the outside of Nick. Goes off the track, nearly loses it as Warren arrives on the scene too. So close to contact that there actually is a bit between the Haas and the Aston Martin. And Oren, 3rd place, was up for grabs, but he's dropped down to 6th. And Seb, on the night that he can win the championship, is away. Morgan from Josh Hewitt then up to 3rd, as Nick did end up losing 2 places in the end. And Oren losing 1 place. Drifting, saving a bit more battery. You can see how much Nick has. For some reason, he just didn't want to use it. And, well, the only way they're going to get Seb now is if A, they work together with DRS and maintain good race pace, or B, they undercut. Which around here, compared to other tracks, isn't exactly the thing you want to do. Because tyre wear is a huge factor. Anyway, looking further down the order, Frosty has got past Lee and Christian, who goes off there, and gets a 3-second time penalty. So Eggy currently in 11th. Remember, Eggy, Drifting, and Nick are all fighting for 4th. 8 points separate them, as Chubster now gets a 3-second too. Drifting and Eggy level on points, as they're 8 points ahead of Nick, who's currently beating them all. And let's see what's going on with the DRS. Looks like Nick's going to try and get the pair of them down into turn 1. Josh versus Morgan. And looks like Nick's going to hold on to P2. But Josh Hewitt still around the outside of the Williams. And will go to the inside. He wants to make it an RB1-2 in this race. And Nick is going to let him. Josh Hewitt into P2 is going off there. And through goes Oren past Morgan, who's down to 6 as well. Looked like Warren nearly lost it there, but the 2 Alpines at the back of the train now. Oren goes past the pair of them to get up in a 4th, and he's feeling racy now. But Josh Hewitt, I guess his main target, finished 2nd as Lee now gets a penalty, and hold these guys up. It's 3 seconds already. He's doing a good job. Here's Josh Hewitt. 5 laps in, a 6th of the way through. No penalties for the top 8. Josh 59%, Smolnik 68. Oren definitely got his elbows out for that one and wasn't going to falter. And Warren now in front of the 2 Alpines. Alpine, who are leading by 28 points, and RB 28 points behind as Josh Hewitt goes off there and does get a 3-second time penalty. Spoke too soon. But yeah, RB 1-2 at the moment, what they need ahead of Alpine, but now Josh does have a penalty. As going off there is Morgan as well. So can Oren close up to the back of Nick? He's quite close to the Williams, who is in hot lap, but Oren is using overtake to pull to the inside and get back onto the podium. As we see behind Warren, not close enough to make a move. They're gaining on Josh rapidly. Oren to the inside this time doesn't hit the car in front, but the car behind does give him a little bit of a tap. But Oren is up into 3rd now. And the gap has stayed stagnant between Seb and Josh. Quickly look at fastest laps throughout these guys. 6.63, 6.2, 4.0. So yeah, pretty similar. But obviously Seb has the pace out in front. And has been driving like a champion all season. He's come under pressure from Morgan in the first half of the season. We thought he was going to be his closest contender. Then Oren towards the middle and second half of the season. He was the closest contender. Got to within 2 points of taking the lead away from Seb in the championship. But Seb, since winning under the night sky in Bahrain, 21 weeks later under the night sky in Qatar, not too far away from where round 1 was situated, he has led the championship throughout all of it. But still early doors in the race, but already 5 people have penalties. And looks like Frosty Life has broken away from the train, and he's a bit on his own at the moment now. As the top 7, well, 7th to 2nd, still within a second or another. Is Oren going to try a move on Josh Hewitt? He's in medium, not really putting up too much of a fight. Here comes Oren then to the inside, and will take P2 in the race. Goes to the inside, Oren up to 2nd. He's having a much better race than he has the last 2 or 3. Obviously, last week in Qatar, the opening lap, he spun or something. So he loses the rear bit there. Spun or something on the final corner at Vegas, which dropped him down the order as Bluey's in the pit lane to serve his penalty. The race before that, as Lee's also in, as Oren now gets a 3-second time penalty. Lee also in, pitting really early onto the hards. So yeah, that's Oren and Josh with a 3-second. But yeah, Vegas didn't go his way, finished 6th or 7th. And the race before that, Brazil, he got a drive-through at the start of the race for speeding under VSC. And the race before that in Mexico was the last time he was actually kind of fighting at the front. But he's back at the front now, and again, the gap is just staying at 3 seconds. We know Owen's got the pace when it comes to the race. Look, he's not too far away from Seb's fastest lap. And he might try and take it away this lap, because he obviously had the DRS there, and free air now. And look at that, he's gaining time on Seb by a couple tenths. As Josh has nearly got small nick out of a second. Warren really under pressure from Morgan there, with a lot of battery to use, and he's going to use it now. Warren not really too defensive. Morgan getting right up close to his wheel. Now blasting his battery, trying to get the move done. As we look into turn 1, Josh Hewitt versus Oren. 4P3. Oren will try and hang it around the outside. Josh will leave him plenty of room to do so, and will stay in front for now. As it looks like Warren's stayed in front of Morgan as well. Josh trying to go for the switch. As Bluey gets another penalty, and Oren hangs on to P2. This battle has cost him half a second. To 3.3 now to Seb. This allows Nick to close up right back to these guys. Frosty losing 8 tenths. It's just the DRS that's making him lose a lot of time. Chubster has found his way up into 9th after dropping down to last in the gravel. Christian gives him a bit of a hit there. As Eggy is watching this unfold. And there's a bit of a gap for Christian. Is he daring to go around the outside? No, he goes a bit wide and holds on to P10. A lot of battery, these two, and Chubster struggling. We'll look back to the front then. It's usually Seb who's prone to getting a few more warnings than Oren, but this time round, Oren's got it, and Josh Hewitt gets another time penalty. It's reminiscent of last season now. And Nick, Warren, Morgan and Drifting could still find themselves fighting for the podium. Warren could get back-to-back podiums at the moment. As we see Josh Hewitt, surely he's going to get the move done this time round on Oren to the inside. Closes up, but doesn't hit him. Look at that, you can see Drifting out of battery nearly, just trying to stick with these guys. Morgan himself has lost a bit. They're all just trying to push a bit more. And yeah, Seb's not exactly bolting away. The gap is staying kind of similar. As going off there, Christian and the Sauber, and slight contact between the pair makes Christian nearly spin. The Sauber goes off now of Chubster, wheel to wheel. Eggy watching this unfold, and they're going to remain wheel to wheel into turn 4, and Christian doesn't leave Chubster enough space, and that ultimately ends in a collision. And Eggy to the inside as Christian's going to try switch back there. Does it pretty well. They're going to remain wheel to wheel. Bluey with another time penalty. Eggy to the inside. Will Christian leave him space this time round? Yes. But Ashley gets the momentum to stay in front. So Chubster going to be a bit annoyed with that one. As now Christian gets the second penalty. Lap 9 then. And the mediums are going to start to wear away. But it's one of those races where you just have to keep hanging on as Bluey retires in the pit lane. And no one's trying to go for an undercut yet. But then again, we're not past the pit lane yet. And they're all staying out still. There could still be a safety car or VSC. But who blinks first? Seb into turn 1. Still leads. Oren to the inside. Taking back P2. Swap once again. And Oren holds on to it this time. Again. Little twitch of the rear though. But none of these guys actually swapping. Drifting saved a bit more battery. Morgan saved plenty of battery as Eggy does get past Christian for P9 as the AI of Bluey just about they avoid. And Drifting unfortunately has fallen out of DRS of these guys, so for him he'd probably want to pit maybe a lap or two early just to be back within these guys. Just unfortunately, it's been a common theme I guess ever since Silverstone, with the exception of maybe Italy. He hasn't shown enough pace to keep up. Morgan definitely saving battery here. Chubster with a penalty again. And Morgan, he could afford to maybe back off 4 tenths and give Drifting DRS, but it really may not help. Lee with a third penalty. There's a safety car. Nathan's going to definitely gain back up into the points at this rate. But yeah, I do not know why Lee pitted that early. Unless he's really going for a 2-stop. And Oren has gained about 4/10 on Seb. If he ignores everyone behind him, he could potentially gain on the RB. As we do see Drifting maybe going into the pit lane. He did take a wider line there. As we see Morgan finally getting past Warren. He's saved up his battery and now he's back up into the top 5. As Josh Hewitt not close enough to swap with Oren. Oren's teammate Nathan now gets a penalty. Sliding all over turn 4 and 5. Really not liking the setup, I'm going to guess then. So Eggy keeping it fine with no penalties. Frosty's actually gained on Drifting. It was 3.8, now it's 2.6, and Drifting has definitely lost a lot of time to these guys. Warren still sticking behind Morgan. Smolnik biding his time. He knows that currently he is net P2 and Morgan is now net P3. And I'm sure Warren will want a second podium in a row. They've nearly made it halfway through the race without a 3-second penalty yet. But Seb out on his own at the moment, 3.3. Oren showing to be slightly quicker. He's nearly got Josh Hewitt out of DRS. But Josh is low on battery himself. Smolnik's on plenty to use. And there it is, 1 second. Josh goes off again. But Oren has cleared away his closest component. And probably the one he was going to try and be the safest with possible. Oren is away then, ahead of Josh Hewitt, who's fending off third. And can Oren now close down as Josh Hewitt's into the pit lane? Potentially for an undercut. Hopefully he doesn't speed. Yep, very slow in. As Drifting also follows him in. Also very slow in. That's calm. As Oren, 13% to Seb's 50. And can Oren chase down Seb? He knows he has 3 seconds. But Oren, I'm sure, will just be driving for himself. He's on 7 race wins. The record is 8. And he wants to equal that tonight. Chubster speeds in the pit lane, though, unfortunately. So, Josh and Drifting pitted. They've exited into free air, as we see Christian still fighting Eggy. So, Josh is going to hopefully try and undercut Oren, or at least get back closer to him. And the gap is staying, again, 3 seconds. Oren taking bits of time here and there, losing bits of time here and there to Seb. Oren, who was on 13%, up to 50. That's why he's lost time. But he's 2 seconds ahead of Nick, who's just not deciding to use his battery. And Morgan and Warren still sticking with him. And Oren's plan now, just get 3 seconds ahead of these guys, really, if he wants to keep this podium. And does Oren decide to try and pit earlier than Seb, undercut him, gain a lot of time that he may not be able to do on track? Seb doesn't decide to pit early to cover off any undercut, but Oren is listening, and he's going into the pit lane, doesn't speed, followed by Nick. Where's Morgan? Followed by Morgan as well. Warren stays out, so Oren is going to try and trigger the undercut. But we'll see where Josh Hewitt and Drifting are compared to the 3 who pitted. Josh Hewitt, 3-second time penalty. He's pushing it too hard again. 9 seconds already. So we see Oren, Smolnik and Morgan fall down the order. You see all 3 of them there. You see Josh Hewitt crossing the start-finish line. There's Oren, and he's still in front. But Josh is back within a second of the Aston Martin. And Nick is right there as well. Morgan's fallen off a bit behind them, actually. They're all a bit more separated. So Oren currently, as Christian and Eggy are fighting through turn 4 and 5 round the outside. Christian's got so much more commitment to be able to pull off those moves. And Oren, a second ahead of Josh Hewitt, so he needs to maximise this lap, not only to keep him out of a second, but also to gain on Seb, who will surely be pitting this lap. Warren, who's left it 1 lap later, will probably come out about a second or so behind Morgan, who's 1.6 in front of Drifting. So it's going to be close between Drifting and Warren when he pits. Frosty, once again, he loves to go long with strategies, and he's doing just that. Look back to the front. Seb is in. Takes it cautiously into the pit lane. And Warren will do the same. And remember, everyone started on mediums, so 3rd, 4th and 5th may pit this lap as well. Oren currently 9 and a bit tenths in front. Christian with a penalty. Now it's a second. The detection point is there. And I think Josh has lost it by just over half a tenth. Warren in. Christian in. As Oren slides out of the final corner. Frosty stayed out. There is Seb. There is Eggy. There is Oren. It's definitely less than 3 seconds now. Seb will head into turn 1 with about a 1 point something gap ahead of Oren. 1.5 nearly. Nathan 3 seconds, all kicking off with the stops. But Oren has halved that gap from 3 seconds down to 1.5. He is behind Seb now. And Josh Hewitt used a lot of battery there. He's pretty similar with Oren now to still stick with a second. 1.4 now. They're all closing in on one another. Even if they're not in a DRS train, it's all pretty stagnant gaps between them. Warren did end up exiting the pit, still in front of Drifting, but behind Morgan. And Seb, to his benefit, is going to catch Eggy pretty much where he wants him to. As much as Oren shows to be having better pace, 1.2, Seb is going to get DRS from Eggy. And we'll see if Frosty and Eggy pit this lap, but Seb is going to catch him at a pretty good time. So Oren, with barely any battery himself, has got a good gap to Josh. Now it's under a second. Oren takes the warning because that has given him DRS on Seb. He was within, and he will take one for the team. And Seb actually held up by Eggy a bit there. And suddenly, Oren is all over Seb into turn 1 with the fastest lap of the race. He's gaining on his championship rival. He won't be close enough for this lap. But crucially, he's within a second now. He's done the right thing with strategy. He took an extra warning because he's already got a penalty to get within DRS. It's smart driving at the risk of warnings. But now look at the gap. He's just extending to Josh. Nick a bit on his own. Same with Morgan. With Warren right behind him. Drifting falling a bit further behind. But now, even though whatever happens between these two, Seb looks like he's going to be world champion. At least we can have a fight between the top two before the title is decided. Oren versus Seb, and I'm sure they're loving this. Frosty Life still out in front. Wouldn't be a race without him staying a bit extra longer in the race with the same stint as he started the race on. So, yeah, at the moment, Oren can definitely hold his own as long as there's no safety car to get second. Josh Hewitt will not be third at this race. He'll still go to either Nick, Morgan, or at the moment, definitely Nick, because Morgan's nearly 3 seconds behind. It's going off there massively as Josh Hewitt. Kick me out my party. Hope everyone watching is having a good night, enjoying the race so far. We've just passed halfway distance, and at the moment, as Oren goes off there, maybe a second warning, but for the first time since Mexico, we are going to see the top two swap on track. It's Oren versus Seb. Frosty pits, which means this is for the race lead, and Oren goes to the inside of Seb to take the lead of the Qatar Grand Prix. Seb doesn't put up much of a fight, but these two game on for the next 14 laps. Christian, another penalty. Wow, a lot for Chubster, considering he did speed as well, so technically Christian has the most 3-second time penalties. Exiting the pit lane there. Frosty Life in P8. 7 seconds to Drifting, but on much better tyres as Christian still fighting Eggy for the last points paying position, but it will go to Eggy considering how many penalties the McLaren has. Let's quickly look at tyre life. Lee, nearly 10 laps older than Frosty's. And what Oren needs to do now is just get Seb out of a second, and as soon as he can do that, deliver the best, however many laps will be remaining, of his career to get 3 seconds on Seb. Hope Seb himself can maybe get a 3-second time penalty, trying to push to keep within 3 seconds and win the race. That's all he can do. That's the maximum he can do. As there it is! Seb has got a 3-second time penalty. So now this is really for position. This is for the win. And Oren, we've said time and time again, if he didn't make this mistake at the start of the race, he had the race pace to fight with Seb for the win. As they're weaving all over the place, they know what they're going to do. Seb to the inside of Oren to take the lead, wheel to wheel between the two. And it looks like Oren to the inside is going to hold on, which Seb, can he get a switchback? He's close to the Aston, who's blasting his battery to stay in front. And at the moment, Oren will stay in front. Yep, this is for position then. This is for the win. 45 points between them. Ignoring fastest lap, it would go down to 38 or 37 or 39 if you include it. With only 26 points to go. Oren needs to well, if he's still got the championship in mind, his only option is to really hold Seb up and hope all these guys behind, which technically could still happen if Oren held Seb up and got everyone down to 7th within time. Oren could then maybe just pull away if some carnage happens. That's his best bet. Win, Seb down to 7th, and technically, considering Oren would also have the fastest lap, he would make the gap, 45 to 25 with 26 points remaining, which technically would make it go to Abu Dhabi. But that is a bit outrageous. Here we go then. Seb, 60%. Oren, 25. And looks like Seb is going to try and take the lead back away from Oren. Oren goes to the inside to defend. Seb doesn't need the slipstream. He's already going to get alongside the Aston Martin. The fight we've been wanting, and it's happening. Seb round the outside of Oren on lap 18 to retake the lead. And Warren gets in front of Morgan for P5. And remember, they're all fighting for P3 now. It looks like these two are going to be far enough ahead to get 1 and 2. Josh, he's not going to get 9 seconds ahead of these guys. So it's Nick at the moment for 3rd. But Warren and Morgan fighting for 4th and 5th. Should hopefully be a fun battle. Oren can stay behind, save some battery. He's already accepted and been at peace with the championship. And hopefully he's just going to race for the win. Trying to get that 8th, equal the record. Seb knows he doesn't have to take any risks. I'm pretty sure 99 out of maybe even 999 out of 1,000 scenarios, he will win tonight. The championship, that is. And even with 9 seconds of pens, still, honourable mention should be Josh Hewitt, currently in 3rd, showing some good pace around Qatar. Speaking of which, fuel lights. Everyone's fine. No yellow fuel lights. So there we go then. On to lap 19. Oren, battery, DRS, slipstream. Which is he going to go? He's going to go to the outside and will get back into the lead in front of Seb. This is going to keep carrying on until the end of the race. Unless Oren does decide to get his foot down and try and gap Seb by over a second. But as Seb goes off there again, we have a yellow. And it is Chubster who's gone for a spin, I believe. He's in the wall. He's in neutral for some reason. Now he's in reverse. He's found it. Gets back on track. It's been a really unfortunate race for him, as he's currently in P12. Eggy gets it to P10 in front of Christian. And Chubster has wing damage. He may head into the pit lane and retire. He's kept the overtake on during the corner. As he goes into the pit lane now. Slows down. Nathan, I'll tell you what though. The top 2 are coming up to lap Nathan. And if Nathan can give Oren DRS at the right time, that would be quite good. I'm pretty sure within 10 laps they'll catch him. As Chubster heads into the pit lane, we'll put on a new set of tyres. Oh, serve his 10-second time penalty as well. Nathan may be able to get in front of him. Obviously, Chubster will have 9 to Nathan's 6, so as long as he's within 3 seconds. They fix the wing, and Nathan is going to be past him. As we'll look behind, or should I say to the front. Oren, another fastest lap by just over, I think, 14 thousandths. But Seb is in his slipstream. Will he go for the inside move? He's too far behind at the moment. Didn't decide to do it. Kept it in none. And Chubster exits the pit lane now. We see behind him Morgan going for a move on Warren to the inside. And looks like he's got the place. Warren trying a switchback, but Morgan positions his car well on the apex. And stays in front then. So Morgan fighting Warren for 5th. Potentially a net 4th. Nick, 1.5 to Josh. Plenty of battery in hand. So he's closing in potentially on him. Drifting, bit of a lonely race. I'll tell you what though, Frosty Life, who was 7.2 behind the Alpine, now 3.8. If we look to tyres, 4 laps fresher. That's a big difference when it comes to a track like this. So Frosty could close in on Drifting, who, remember, is 8 points in front of Nick. Nick's going to get 15 if he gets the podium. Drifting, is he within 9 seconds of Josh? No. So he's going to stay where he is at the moment. So 6 points, 15 points, 9 points. Nick is 8 behind, and after this, he will be 1 point in front of Drifting with 1 race to go. And as for Eggy, he's not scoring any, unfortunately. So he was 8 points in front of Nick. He will be 7 points behind Nick So Nick will be 1 ahead of Drifting, who will be 6 ahead of Eggy. As the top 2 swap into turn 1, Seb retakes the lead from Oren. As Warren retakes P5 from Morgan. It's been a great race so far, full of action, battles, strategy, warnings. It's been a great season, and I think, well, at least one title is certainly decided. As Chubster gets another penalty, as for the constructors, as Lee pits again, yep, he was definitely not taking those to the end. As for the constructors, it looks like it will be going down to the wire, as going off there is Nathan. Just getting out of the way as he's being lapped by Nick. So yeah, without being down in 6th and 7th, their best case scenario is probably 4th and 7th. But still, the RB technically outscoring them, or they're definitely not going to outscore RB by 17 points. So the constructors will still go down to the wire, which is great. Looks like Aston will be out of it. They're not going to outscore Alpine by 20 points, as Nathan's down in 12th. But yeah, on to lap 22 then. Riding aboard with Oren, 75%. Seb blasting a little bit on 80. Seb goes defensive to the inside. Now he's in none. He allows Oren to go to the left, using a bit more battery to fly past, back up into the lead. Tell you what though, Josh Hewitt is actually pulling away from Nick. Fair play to Josh. It's one of those tracks that just clicks with him. Unfortunately, penalty-wise, that's something he needs to focus on. As Frosty does get past Drifting, because Drifting is into the pits again. So he's already not being able to take these hards the whole way through. It actually looked like he went a bit far over his box there. Goes onto the mediums, and potentially he could take the fastest lap away from Oren. He's going to have to improve his own time by a whole second. But that is interesting. The hards, how long are they going to cope for? Drifting, remember, did pit the earliest of the top 7. One lap before, I guess, Oren, Morgan, and Warren, and Smolnik, I think. So it's going to be interesting to see if these hards can hang on. We don't actually know, as Frosty Life gets a 3-second. We don't actually know if there is going to be a struggle with these guys, or if they're just calm and going to the end. But yeah, at the moment, Josh will fall down to 6th, which will still be a decent result for him. Smolnik will be 3rd, and Warren and Morgan will be fighting for 4th and 5th. And fighting for the lead on lap 23. Seb gaining on Oren, but looks to be a bit too far this time, as Oren has a lot less battery than Seb. And it's all going to come down to that final lap. Lee gets another penalty. Drifting still intense, so he's going to chase down Eggy. And these two, who are level on points, Drifting and Eggy on 158, are, well, they're going to fight for 8th and 9th, technically. Christian's definitely not keeping hold of 8th. Don't really know if Drifting can really chase down Frosty, but he's definitely going to chase down Eggy, who has lost the battle to Christian and is outside of a second from him. So these two going into the final race. At the moment they're level, but which one's going to be in front of the other? Because it looks like Nick is going to be 4th after this race in the standings. As there's another penalty for Christian. So it's the fight for 5th in the standings. Eggy versus Drifting, as going off there is Nathan. And heading into the last one, who's going to get the 2-point advantage? As we have a yellow, and it is Chubster, who's gone off again, lost even more of his wing. That's a really weird place to lose it. But yeah, it's just been a really unfortunate race for him after a very impressive quali, to be fair. He's lost it again. Start of lap 24 then. This time does Seb try a move on Oren. He's gaining on the Aston Martin. He's looking to the inside, but backs off. Full battery. And they're both trying to save as much as they can. Smolnik falling further away from Josh Hewitt. Morgan going for the move on Warren to the inside. Warren still hangs it around the outside. Slight bit of contact between the pair, but Morgan gets the job done. And it's just heating up more and more as Chubster. I can't even see his dot. Just disappears then. He may have gone into the pit lane and I don't know where he's got. But anyway, he's out of the race. So that'll promote Nathan up to 12th. Drifting does take the fastest lap away from Oren by 4/10. So an extra point for the Alpine, and if he does lose the battle to Eggy, he'll only be 1 point behind him, not 2. But now these two are fighting for the win. Don't really know if they can get another fastest lap on board. But yeah, screw the fastest lap. This is what it is mainly focused on, the win and second. 5 laps to go then in the Qatar Grand Prix. It's Seb versus Oren out in front like it has been all season round. And on the night, it looks like the drivers are going to be wrapped up. It's great to see them still fighting it out. At this time, does Seb decide to use any battery or keep it on 100? He's gaining, and even with none, he's going to take the lead on lap 25. And this time they both have 100%. Josh doing his best as Warren goes to the inside and will take back P5. And there's still a chance. Josh needs 14.5. He needs another 3 seconds to gain on Warren and Morgan, which means if any of these two get a 3-second time penalty, Josh could still find himself 5th or 4th. But it looks like Nick's certainly going to get 3rd. Nick, who has won the last 3 races, a brilliant run. It's still going to be P3 at the moment for the Williams driver to make that 90 points in 4 races, which is a brilliant amount of points for him, which will soar him up to 4th in the standings. As we look to Seb and Oren, it could have gone so differently. Singapore, we'll look back on, was the turning point in the standings when Oren got it to 2 points to Seb, and then obviously had a collision with Josh, which took him out the race. Seb won the race. A full swing of points up to 28, and then since then it's only gone up to 45. So even without that Singapore race, an 18 points gained, 45 would be up to about 27. Zoran flicking his DRS there. They're just trying to have some fun. But yeah, technically if it was 27 points, this fight right here would determine if it would go down to the wire. If Oren won, yes, it would go to Abu Dhabi. If Seb won, he would be champion. As Morgan and Warren fight again. Morgan still in front of the Haas driver, who stays behind. And let's look, drifting has caught Eggy round the final corner. He's not got DRS to Christian, so here comes drifting then. Eggy goes defensive to the inside. Drifting will flick to the left and soar past the Mercedes. And drifting still trying to hang on to the inside, but drifting brakes much later on easier, fresher rubber and goes around the outside to take the position. And now, next up, Christian. But due to him being so much quicker, he may actually get a bit held up. And does he decide to overtake from here to the next lap before the DRS? Only a few laps to go now. Sebastian Ferrugia, only a few laps away from becoming world champion. As they head through the final couple of corners. 3 to go as Josh Hewitt gets a 4th time penalty, which pretty much confirms he'll finish 6th. Maybe even 7th, I don't know, with Frosty. Top 2 cross the line then. They know heading on to the last lap, they want to be the driver in second, and at the moment that's Oren. As Warren gets past Morgan. It's been a thoroughly enjoyable season, these 21 rounds. We've still got 1 left to go next week, which could still decide the constructors, as it's looking that way to go on down to the wire. And it's still going to be a fight for the win between these two. And it looks like whoever leads on the exit of turn 1 is going to win the race. But I'm sure Seb, as we see drifting to the inside of Christian. And Christian stays in P8. As drifting all over the back of the McLaren. Now you're going to use his battery. Will he go to the inside of the McLaren, who's not putting up too much of a fight, but he's still got track position to the inside. He leaves the space, and drifting goes past up into P8. And it looks like he's just going to pull away from these guys now. So Eggy trying to get past Christian, who goes defensive, goes off the track there, and Eggy round the outside. Looks like he's going to get the place on Christian too. So Eggy as Christian breaks a bit later. But Eggy is in front now. But Ghosts, for some reason. Nathan gets another penalty. Christian all over the track trying to get ahead. Stays behind for now. We look back to the top two. Oren still sticking behind on the penultimate lap. The penultimate race of the season. And like I was saying, Seb, I'm sure, as he just missed out in Vegas last week, would love to win the championship and win the race with it. But a win for Oren, I'm sure, would mean a lot and equal the all-time record of 8 Tier 2 wins, which would be brilliant for him. As Morgan and Warren still fighting. It's getting closer and closer between the pair. Lot of battery for these two. Lot of battery for these two. And yeah, drifting pretty much away. Eggy still got DRS on him. Same with Christian. You see in the background Lee. And he should, well, there's half a second in it if he's going to get 10th and 11th. But anyway, I think for this last 2 minutes of the race, we got to focus on the top two. Not only in this race, in the championship, a league of their own. They've given us a brilliant fight. Oren, unfortunately, in the last 5 or so races, hasn't exactly had the momentum to stick with Seb's consistency, but he's sticking right on the gearbox of the RB, and there's still a fight for the win on at the Qatar Grand Prix. Seb's going to have to blast everything to keep hold of this win. Round the final corner, the last lap of the Qatar Grand Prix is go. As they cross the line, Seb trying to blast all his battery, but Oren has the DRS, he has the ERS, and he's got the slipstream. He's now got P1. Oren into the lead on the last lap. Does take P1 at turn 1, and Seb powerless to defend. But he's going to need to try something if he wants this win on the last lap. Josh Hewitt's actually gained quite a bit on these guys because they have been saving battery for so long. Warren gets up in a P5 on the last lap in front of Morgan, and maybe he can hang on to a potential P4 finish. And it looks like Oren is going to try his best as long as there's no more time penalties for the two. Oren looks like he's going to have this win sorted, but he just needs to keep it on the road. And he will himself deliver a personal record he's been wanting to equal of 8 Grand Prix wins. The all-time record will see his name up there with Logan and Taze. But Sebastian Ferrugia has just got just over 1 sector left before he can bestow upon him the greatest achievement you can achieve in EXFL Tier 2. 9 seasons in, he's been waiting for one to call his own. And with so many records equaled and broken, he's now got just 1 corner remaining. Oren is going to win the Qatar Grand Prix, his 8th career win. Sebastian Ferrugia behind him, weaves out of the final corner, and Sebastian Ferrugia, as Oren spins over the line. But Seb is champion of the world in EXFL Tier 2, Season 9. Oren wins, and Seb comes home to take the championship. Small Nick P3, Warren P4, Morgan P5, Josh P6, Frosty P7, and a season of so much consistency and hard work has rewarded him. Seb is champion. Drifting will come home P8, very far clear of the guys he was fighting only a couple laps ago. Drifting spins across, and Eggy will pick up 9th. Drifting, I believe, did get the fastest lap then. He did. And will Lee beat Christian? It looks like he will by about 6/10. Crosses the line. Oh, he didn't. That must have been close. Oh, it wasn't close. Never mind. Lee must have got more penalties or something. But Christian hangs on then for a point, as I think Morgan got that glitch. But yeah, the constructors goes down to the wire, but the drivers has been sealed tonight in Qatar. Sebastian Ferrugia, your Tier 2 world champion. Yep, it's quite clear to see he's very ecstatic. And it got all a bit hectic there right at the end. I genuinely thought Oren may have bottled it there. But the line came up quite quickly for him to take it. And yep, an 8th win for Oren. He's got 1 chance left then in Abu Dhabi to make the record his own and take a 9th win of the season and career to break the record. But speaking of 9, it is Tier 2's 9th World Championship going to Seb, Kian, Will, Matt, Joe, Fees, Bram, Logan, Jay, and now Seb adds his name to that prestigious list of EXFL Tier 2 World Champions. That was the Qatar Grand Prix. Let's quickly get what's going to be quite a long race director. There we go. Right then, let's get the top 3 in the party. Oren. Well, can't get Nick in the party, unfortunately, but can at least interview the top 2. And here we have it. The world champion joining the party. And now leaving the party. There we go, he's back. Seb, have you included your audio, mate? Sebastian Perugia, you are the world champion. The world champion. Congratulations, mate. It definitely should. I've invited you to the new lobby if you want to just join that. A season of brilliance, consistency, determination, and outright pace has rewarded you handsomely. To do it with one race to go, the 9th Tier 2 World Champion, and one of the most deserving and best seasons we've seen from a driver in all of EXFL history. I will get, if you just want to pick your car, I will get the settings ready for you. I don't know if Oren's joining, but you had quite the fun battle with him during that race. Alright. Yeah. Right, I think that is all the settings for you. Oh yeah, technically I need to go into this as well for actually to view one car. So if you want to just ready up, I will also get your champion post ready. There we go. Shit. Yeah. Don't ready up just yet. I may have done something kind of embarrassing, actually. I've accidentally posted your champion post on my F1 Union page. Quickly deleted it, but yep, there we go. Everyone Union's just posted. Where's it gone? Right, should be up now. No, I've already deleted. And also, you've kept the Constructors' Championship alive. Exactly. Right, there we go. Exactly, and we know what you two achieved last season at Abu Dhabi, so you never know. Right, there we go, it's out. There we go, right. 5 lappers, tier 2 announcements. There we go. Right, I'll just quickly type a little announcement and then we can gear up for your donuts. You just take it all in, mate. You have deserved this more than anyone. Oren and Morgan, they've given you a right fight, but throughout it all, you've clearly been the best driver this season, and it's rewarded you. Like, again, you did a Silverstone right at the end. You just delivered the lap to take your 10th pole of the season. Remarkable. And your 13th overall to put you second on all time now, like just yourself. And then you pulled away from the rest, and then Oren showed he had good pace. He undercut you, he stuck with you, and then it was just a fight for the last 14 whatever laps. And then was it just one of those DRS things right at the end? Exactly. You both got something. 1 more minute. Uh, yeah, Bram did it. I think in season 6. Also, you've only led it for, well, I guess, yeah, technically you will lead it for 22, but yeah, it was Bram 22. As Oren's joined the party, there we go. Quickly interview him, and then we can gear up. Oren, are you there, mate? Hello. Are you able to include your audio? Ah, it's fine. It's fine. Anyway, bit of a happy day for both of you. Of course, it wasn't the championship, but you have won the Qatar Grand Prix, which means you have taken your 8th win and you have equalled the all-time EXFL Tier 2 win record. A very good race. Shades of mid-season Oran returned today, and it's great to see. Just take us through your race real quick. You didn't have the greatest start, but then you came back through the field. Exactly. I thought you nearly bottled it right at the end, spinning over the line. Exactly. Genuinely thought you spun and Seb was gonna win. I was saying the speech and everything, and round the fight. Oh my god, Oren spun. Anyway, um, let's gear up then. You can ready up now, Seb, for his donut. I don't know why you're on the hard. Oh wait, of course you ended the race on hards. That's why. Big brain, realistic. Yeah. Get your setup on. You're gonna need. Also, I'd advise turning traction control off, but yeah, yeah. I guess you could take lap 1 as like a victory lap, and then when you come around the start finish straight, do you think? Exactly. Alright, Sebastian Ferrugia, Tier 2, Season 9, World Champion. Let's turn all that off. And he can take it in this lap. All the emotions, and I'm sure you are quite ecstatic, mate, as he showed that voice clip in the 5 lappers. Wow, wow, wow. 21 weeks since Bahrain when you won the opening round. Did you ever think it could come to something like this? Yep. You were here for the first race for Tier 2, all the way back in mid 2020. And like I said, season after season, you've just been calmly waiting. The most experienced Tier 2 driver in history has finally earned himself the greatest achievement you can obtain. And round the final corner, it's been quite a while waiting. But now, Seb, you can do your donuts. You are the EXFL Tier 2 World Champion. Let's see how good your donuts are then. Yeah. Oh, that's something I should have done. I probably should have turned off ghosting, but oh well. Celebrating style, under the light. Not too far away from Bahrain, I added earlier in the stream. But yeah. And now you've got one race left. Not exactly all pressure off now. You've still got to try and win the Constructors. Obviously, you finished second today. Josh finished 6th. So 26 points for you. Morgan got 5th. Drifting got 4th and fastest laps. 10, 15, 26. So you were 28 points behind, and now you're 17 points behind with one race to go. That's going to be very interesting to see who wins out of that one. I don't think you can do it alone this time. You're going to need Josh. But we know what you did last season, getting that 1-2. And a 1-2 would be enough, to be fair. That's the wall. But, yeah, 17 points. Do you think you can do it next week? Exactly. I'll also add, as much as you already broke the record for most podiums in a row last week, you've now extended it 9 podiums in a row, just to add to that incredible consistency. You can round it out next week with 10. Pretty much, actually, like, surely. Only took you 130 races to win. But, yeah. Yeah. But, yeah. Uh, as for you, Oren, you've now secured second in the championship. I believe Aston are now out of the constructors' fight, but that seemed a bit of a long shot anyway. But it's still been a remarkable season from you. You've equalled the record for most wins in a season. You've equalled the all-time win record. You've got one more race now, fully on you. Doesn't matter about the drivers. Doesn't matter about the constructors. Can you get that 9th win in Abu Dhabi? Exactly. Right, one race left then in EXFL Tier 2 Season 9. Sebastian Ferrugia is your Tier 2 World Champion. He's done it with one race to spare. And I think we've said everything we possibly can about this guy. What a brilliant season he's delivered on and off the track. And he's finally got what he deserves. No one could be happier than himself. And well done to Oren on an 8th win of the season tonight. Both drivers, protagonists in the season, getting something out of tonight, what they want. And yeah, one race to go then in Abu Dhabi, the finale. The constructors' fight is still well and truly on, and we will see who's the victor of that, Alpine or RB. And Seb, if maybe you want to say any final words before I end the stream, go ahead. Don't say woof like you did when you won races. Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, we'll see you next week in Abu Dhabi. One final race in EXFL Tier 2 Season 9.